Hare Krishna Amba, Hare Krishna Chaitanya Nitai Nam, Hare Krishna Bradras Bhavana, Hare Krishna Madhuri Saki, Hare Krishna Tarani Radha, Hare Krishna Sham, though that must be Keshava, Hare Krishna Keshava, Hare Krishna Madhuri Saki. Thanks for joining. California, California, California. Amba, where are you?
My dad's sister's house. My mom and brother they were in a yatra, the Govardhan yatra, but then they went to go visit my grandma in India, and then a lot of stuff happened. So I'm in Schaumburg. I'm with my dad's sister's family right now.
You're in Illinois.
Yeah, and I'm from Illinois. I'm representing Illinois.
Go Illinois. I know Schaumburg. I
Yes,
travel all over those places. I lived in Chicago for a while.
it's
At
very
Kishore
cold. We
Kishore's
we have
wedding.
like a
It's
snowstorm over
cold.
here.
Illinois is cold. My Shika used to freeze on the way to Mangalartik.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And Nishta's here. Mayuri's here. And it was Keshav. He's on the moon or something. On a lunar excursion. Part, how's it going over there?
It's going pretty good, Marge.
Are you on campus or are you back home?
No, I'm back home for the
Okay.
weekend.
Excellent. Vivan's here. Welcome, Vivan. Good to see you. Hare Krishna Part.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
What's that picture? Is that in the middle of the Sahara Desert or something? You guys travel all over the world.
It was in Egypt, Maharaj.
See what I'm saying? you're intrepid. Fantastic. Navya's here. Fantastic. Great to have you here, Navya. Thanks for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, over to you, Brajaras Bhavana, or whoever's leading the charge today.
Hare Krishna Maharaj and Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for joining this jam. So it's very nice to have Maharaj back as we were looking forward to finishing the presentation that we had started looking at on Saturday 2 weeks ago. So before we get started with our usual program, as we usually will do, we'll start with a prayer. And the way that works is we'll have someone make a nomination, and if that gets seconded, we can hear from that person a nice prayer. So would anyone like to make a nomination?
Ah!
Both Maharaj and Rajas have both nominated Keshav, and I guess that's a second as well, but I second just in case. And we have a third from Amba. Haribol. All right, Keshav, would you like to go ahead?
Yes. Uh, Dear Radha Madhav and Madan Mohan and Nrsimhadev, please make sure that this UTM is a success, and we are inspired to be determined for 2026. Thank you for considering our request.
Thank you so much, Keshav. Really nice prayer. And now we'll get started with Chad from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11. So, Marge, I'll hand it off to you then.
Okay, how much are we doing of chapter 11? Is it
I
the
think
whole
it's
thing?
the first half, so about 27 verses.
Wow. Okay, here we go. Are we doing the Sanskrit first?
Yes, we'll do the Sanskrit and then go back to the English translations, if that's fine.
And how many should we do each?
Well, let's see. Let's do 3 each and see how many we get.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Arjuna Vacha Mad anugrahaya paramam kuyum vadyatma sangyatam yat tvayoktam vachastena mohuyam vigato mama bhavapyaya hi bhutanang shruta vistarasho maya twalta kamala pratyaksha mahatmyam apichavyayam Evamita yatakta tvam atmanam parameshvara drashtum ichchami te rupam aishvaram purushottama.
मन्यसे यदि तत् शक्यं मया द्रष्टुम् इति प्रभो योगेश्वर ततो मे त्वं दर्शयात्मानमव्ययम् श्रीभगवानुवाच पश्य मे पार्थरूपाणि शतशोथसहस्रशः नानाविधानि दिव्यानि नानावर्णाकृतीनि च पश्यादित्यान् वसून् रुद्रान् अश्विनौ मरुतस्तथा बहून्यदृष्टपूर्वाणि पश्याश्चर्याणि भारत
इहैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नं पश्याद्य सचराचरं मम देहे गुडाकेश यच्चान्यद्द्रष्टुमिच्छसि न तु मां शक्यसे द्रष्टुम् अनेनैव स्वचक्षुषा दिव्यं ददामि ते चक्षु पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् सञ्जय उवाच एवम् उक्त्वा ततो राजन् महायोगेश्वरो हरि दर्शयामास पार्थाय परमं रूपमैश्वरम्
अनेकवक्त्रनयनम् अनेकद्भुतदर्शनम् अनेकदिव्यभरणम् दिव्यानेकोदययुतम् दिव्यामलयम् भारधरम् दिव्यागन्धानुलेपनम् सर्वश्चर्यामयम् देवम् अन्तम् विश्वतोमुखम् दिवि सूर्यसहस्रस्य भवेद्युगपद उत्थिता यदि भासदृशी सा स्यात् पार्श्वस्तस्य महात्मना
तत्रैकस्थं जगत्कृष्णं प्रविद्भक्तमनेकदा अपश्य देवदेवस्य शरीरे पन्दवस्तदा तथा स विस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरो मध्यनञ्जय प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृतञ्जलिरभाषत अर्जुन उवाच पश्यामि देवंस्तव
Dashyami devam
स्तव
savade devadehe
सर्वांस्तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् प्रमाणिशं कमलशानस्तं ऋषींश्च सर्वानुग्रमंश्च दिव्यान्
अनेकबाहूदरवक्त्रनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपम् नान्तं न मध्यं न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रिणं च तेजोराशिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमन्तम् पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यं समन्ताद् दीप्तानलार्कद्युतिमप्रमेयम् त्वमक्षरनं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् त्वम् अव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे
अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तम् द्या वा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वा दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपमुग्रं तवेदं लोक्यत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् अमीहि त्वां सुरसङ्घा विशन्ति केचिद्भीता प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीत्युक्त्वा महर्षिसिद्धसङ्घा स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः
Rudradritya vasavo ye cha sadhya Vishveshvinau marutaschoshma pascha Gandharva yaksha surasiddha sangha Vikshanti tvam vismitaschaiva sarve Rupam mahate bahuvaktra netram Mahabaho bahurupadam Bahudaram bahudamstra karalam Drishtva loka pravyatitataham Nabha sprisham deeptam anekavarnam Vyatananam deepta vashalanetram Drishtva hitvam pravyatitantaratma Drishtim na viddami shamam cha Vishno.
दंष्ट्राकरालानि च ते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्मा प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्रा सर्वे सहैवावनिपालसङ्घै भीष्मो द्रोणसूतपुत्रस्तथासौ सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यै वक्त्राणि ते रमान विशन्ति दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गैः
Arjuna said, By my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized your inexhaustible glories. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours.
If you think that I'm able to behold your cosmic form, O Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms. O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestation of the Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashwini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before.
O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see, and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. But you cannot see me with your present eyes, therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Sanjaya said, O kings, having spoken thus, the Supreme Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna.
Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared all over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Personality in their universal form. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands.
Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Arjuna said, "My dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere without limit. I see you in no end, no middle, and no beginning."
Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence spreading on all sides, like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion.
You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings, all crying all peace, are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns.
All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishvedas, the two Ashvarvish, the Marutas, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are and the perfected demigods are the perfect are the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors, touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind.
O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth.
Have you read any of the purports yet?
Last week we read verse number 5, I believe.
Okay. Can we do verse number 1? Arjuna said, by hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. Purport: this chapter reveals Krishna as the cause of all causes. He is even the cause of the Mahavishnu, from whom the material universes emanate. Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the source of all incarnations. That has been completely explained in the last chapter. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a mere human being, as a friend of his, but as the source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has such a great friend as Krishna. But now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as the source of everything, others may not. So in order to establish Krishna's divinity for all, he is requesting Krishna in this chapter to show his universal form. Actually, when one sees the universal form of Krishna, one becomes frightened, like Arjuna. But Krishna is so kind that after showing it, he converts himself again into his original form. Arjuna agrees to what Krishna has several times said. Krishna is speaking to him just for his benefit. So Arjuna acknowledges that all this is happening to him by Krishna's grace. He is now convinced that Krishna is the cause of all causes and is present in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. Can we look at the word for word? Arjuna Vacha, Arjuna said, Mat anugrahaya, just to show me favor, paramam, supreme, kuyam, confidential subject, adhyatma, spiritual, sangjitam, in the matter of yet what tvaya, by you, uktam, said, vachaha, words, tena, by that, moha, illusion, ayam, this, vigataha, is removed, mama, my. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. Any comments? Observations? Reflections?
Well, Maharaj, I really like that Arjuna, when he saw Krishna in the full form, right? Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a normal human being. He now refers to Krishna as like his God. And Krishna doesn't want that type of relationship with his friends. So it just shows that how Krishna just wants a loving relationship with his devotees.
Yeah, thank you, Part. Vivan?
Hare Krishna. So, whenever I heard Part's reflection, that actually made me think about how how Krishna was like reluctant, maybe like he didn't want to show his universal form to Arjuna, and maybe the reason why would be because then Arjuna would stop treating him as a friend, and Krishna doesn't, as Part described, Krishna doesn't want that type of relationship. And that and whenever Arjuna says that my illusion has now been dispelled, this could refer to him treating Krishna as a friend as well. Like he could also, it could be like, oh, I'm clear in my mind about all these spiritual subjects, but also like, oh, you're not actually a human being, you're actually the supreme personality of Godhead, which Krishna doesn't want to have that type of relationship with his devotees.
Then why do you think he's showing him the universal form if he doesn't want to?
Maybe because Arjuna might not have been entirely convinced of everything that he was saying, and he also begged Krishna to show him like how this is possible. So
Well, does anybody here know what Prabhupada said about that? About why he shows him the universal form? Amba, go ahead. I know you're not necessarily answering the question I just asked, but because you had your hand beforehand, but please go ahead.
Sorry.
Not at all.
What was the question? I didn't hear.
No, just say what you were going to say. I'll come back to the question.
Oh, I was gonna say that I like how you chose this verse, Maharaj, because um in the purport they were saying this chapter reveals Krishna as the cause of all causes. I like how they said that because like each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is like different than the other chapter because like they're talking about that the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is like showing his full form um maybe of all of the incarnations, but I really like this verse and I really like how you read it.
Thank you very much. It's hard to miss when you pick any verse in the Bhagavad Gita. But Brajaras Bhavana gave Prabhupada's answer. So this sort of balances the conversation because this is authoritative. He said, Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has such a great friend as Krishna, but now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as the source of everything, others may not. Brajaras Bhavana, you want to say more about it?
Arjuna, for the benefit of all of us, he requested Krishna to show this form, even though he was very disturbed upon seeing it, and I think he knew that he would be as well. And so he took the trouble to take that darshan and also to show us that Krishna is actually the cause of all causes. Everything is contained within him.
Can you say more about the others may not part?
Because Arjuna had this relationship with Krishna and he's able to accept him as a guru very easily at the beginning because he went to Krishna for guidance and instruction because he respected him. However, others may not start at the same place as Arjuna. And so Arjuna took everything that Krishna said very seriously, especially like chapter 9 and chapter 10, which talk about how to worship him. And so when it came to others, they might not have been able to understand that, to accept Krishna as God. And so this section allows them to really just understand that Krishna actually is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's the cause of all causes. And that's a great way to start into like chapter 12, which talks about a devotional service.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we have, Vivon said, some people might not be convinced with him just his instructions. They need something concrete like his terrible universal form. Sia said, I feel that future generations might believe that Krishna was just an ordinary person, so Krishna proves he truly is God with showing his form. That's definitely along the lines of what Prabhupada says in the Acharyas. And Prabhupada used to challenge people when they would say, oh, I'm God. He'd say, well, then let's see your universal form. And it comes down to this point that Krishna showed his universal form. Let's see yours. Lord Chaitanya showed his universal form also to Lord Nityananda and I believe Advaita Acharya. So, yeah, that's important. Any other thoughts, comments about the verses we read? Part?
So I found a Back to Godhead article about this, and it very much supported Prabhupada's purport. Obviously, it's based off of it, but it says that it was love that had motivated Arjuna to ask Krishna to show his universal form, to more fully manifest Krishna's glory for the world to know. Arjuna wanted Krishna to demonstrate his verbal declaration that he sustains the entire universe. So I think it was he basically foresaw that us and other people would need more of a concrete or definitive proof rather than the faith that Arjuna would have in Krishna, because I don't think Arjuna necessarily needed the universal form, he already trusted Krishna, and Prabhupada already said that in the purport. But he basically foresaw us needing more of a definitive proof for us to actually solidify our faith in Krishna.
Thank you, Part. Devotees generally, when they do anything, they're motivated by their desire to glorify Krishna. And I thought of another example in the Bhagavatam. When Yudhishthira tried to arrange for the Rajasuya sacrifice, the Rajasuya Yajna, it's explained there that he did it to show Krishna's glory because he's Krishna's devotee, and to show that he's the most powerful king. He wanted to do that to glorify Krishna, because it wasn't for himself and his own aggrandizement, but he wanted to show that Krishna's devotees, by Krishna's grace, are the topmost, and that Krishna supports them in all ways. So that's the explanation, and it's similar, not dissimilar, to the motivation of Arjuna in wanting to show the universal form for others, just so Krishna could be glorified and, as Part just said, verified. What do you think of this chapter in general, for those of you who've read it? How does it make you feel when you read the chapter? Chaitanya Nitai Nam.
I think, especially with the meter of this, many of the verses in this chapter, I think almost 35 or 40 of the verses from verse 15 onward it's this new meter where it's longer, but it sounds much more beautiful, in my opinion. And obviously the content of the verses itself, like what they mean, they describe Krishna from Arjuna's point of view, but Krishna's universal form. And it's supposed to be this, conceptually, it's like a terrible universal form that we obviously as devotees wouldn't conceptualize as the most lovable form of Krishna. But for whatever reason, between the meter and also the way Arjuna describes it, what he sees, it feels like a stepping stone into the Srimad Bhagavatam just because of how beautiful it sounds.
It's really fun to chant it too, isn't it? Especially when you practice it for a while so that you don't fall off any of the meter. But it really flows when we chant that chapter together. Especially for Gita Jayanti, I've noticed. It's nice. And elsewhere, when Prabhupada's talking about notable prayers that you can chant, he mentions this chapter. I used to chant it. I put it in a notebook, and I chant in front of the deities when greeting the deities in the morning, because Prabhupada recommended it, and I really liked that flow of the chapter. Well, Part's got his hand up. It's hard to tell because there's so much going on with the Lord back there. Go ahead. I thought maybe it was one of the Lord Balaram's hands giving us a benediction.
I just have one question. Why is the universal form considered like ghastly?
Considered what?
Like ghastly.
Well, you can read it in the chapter itself, but when you see the universal form, you see that all entities are entering into his mouths and he's chewing them up. And in one place, Prabhupada describes like with a giant who might be eating little people. And there's a section in there. Once Hanumat Preshak Swami and I were talking about this chapter, and he sent me this little cartoon of this big giant eating people out of a bowl. But if you've ever seen something like the Nature Channel, there's a channel I used to be on a long time ago where they show nature, but it's rather ghastly. You think, oh, there's a little squirrel, and then you see a predatory bird come and rip it in half and eat its brains, and then you go like, oh, that's kind of gross. When you actually look at the material nature, you see that there's a lot of destruction going on. And for those who are sentient beings who are seeking permanence, the very shifting nature that you see all at once, like what we're used to is seeing things change slowly. Like You don't notice that other people are growing until you don't see them for a while, and then you see them at an interval and you go, oh, you grew. But if things change too fast, it becomes unnerving because we're used to a permanence. And so when you see it all at once and it's all changing one thing into another, everyone you love, everything you thought you had, it's all just being consumed into the universal form and chewed up and gone, then it's scary because, just like during an earthquake. I'm in California, so we've had some earthquakes here. And I remember the Loma Prieta earthquake, I guess it was 1989. And generally in the suburbs, nobody talks to one another. You just go home. You can have neighbors for 20 years. You never know who they are. But during the earthquake, everybody came out and they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? What are you going to do now? Of course, everyone was okay, but they were just shocked by the sheer magnitude of it's an awesome feeling with the earth shaking, something you don't expect. What to speak of, you see everything, every planet, it's all just being demolished and morphing into something else. It's very scary to the simple human mind. Does that make sense, Part?
Thank you, Maharaj. It really helped.
Yeah, even if you watch these little films on YouTube, not that I recommend that too much, but there's tsunamis. There's some in Japan where a tsunami comes up and it demolishes cities, cars are being carried away. Just the whole area is just being washed away. It's ghastly and scary. Even on the freeway, when somebody has a crash, the reason the traffic slows down is not because of the crash, it's because everyone wants to see it. And it's the ghastly rasa. They're going, oh. And so, yeah, that's the general feeling from that chapter. When I first got the Bhagavad Gita, when I was in high school, it was just translations, and I used to read it every day. And I still have it. I'll show you real quick. Can you see me? I don't have my self-image on, so I can't tell what I'm doing. Can you see that? This little Bhagavad Gita a friend gave me in Christmas 1972. There's an inscription on the inside. It's a friend of mine from high school handed me this. I had no idea what it was, but then I just started reading it because I was interested in spirituality. And I used to read this thing every single day. But I remember when I'd get to the part about the universal form, it was actually scary. I'd think, like, do I really want to enter into this again? I kind of do. I wanted to experience that scary feeling, but still I was aware of the fact that it was a little bit hair-raising going into that. Then that's my experience.
Thank you.
Are we still reading the Lilamrita? I really like the Lilamrita. It's a good place to take shelter, right? Start at the top. He assured her that he had no ambition to become the proprietor of a house or temple in America, but for preaching, a building would be absolutely required. They should have association of bona fide devotees of the Lord. They should join the kirtan, glorifying the Lord. They should hear the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. They should have intimate touch with the temple or place of the Lord, and they should be given ample chance to worship the Lord in the temple. Under the guidance of the bona fide devotee, they can be given such facilities, and the way of the Srimad Bhagavatam is open for everyone. He informed her that he had located a building just suitable for this great missionary work. It was ideal, as if it was built for this purpose only.
and your simple willingness to do the act will complete everything smoothly. The house is practically 3 stories: ground floor, basement, and 2 stories up, with all the suitable arrangements for gas, heat, etc. The ground floor may be utilized for preparation of prasadam for Balakrishna, because the preaching center will not be for dry speculation, but for actual gain, for delicious prasadam. I have already tested how the people here like the vegetable prasadam prepared by me. They will forget meat eating and pay for the expenses. American people are not poor men like the Indians, and if they appreciate a thing, they are prepared to spend any amount on such a hobby. They are being exploited simply by jugglery of words and bodily gymnastics, and they are still spending for that. But when they will have the actual commodity and feel pleasure by eating very delicious prasadam of Balakrishna, I am sure a unique thing will be introduced into America. Now, according to his plans, he had a week left in America.
My term to stay in America will be finished by the 17th of November, 1965. But I am believing in your foretelling. You should stay there until you fully recover your health and return after you have completed your mission. Tagore Society of New York, Inc. cordially invites you to a lecture, God Consciousness, by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Date, Sunday, November 28, 1965. Time, lecture 3:30 p.m. T 4 p.m. Place, New India House, 3 East 64th Street. A widely respected scholar and religious leader in India, Swami Bhaktivedanta is briefly visiting New York. He has been engaged in a monumental endeavor of translating the 60-volume Srimad Bhagavatam from Sanskrit into English.
Can you please scroll? November 28th. Dawood Haroon had never met Srila Prabhupada. He was a musician living downtown, and he used to attend the meetings of Tagore's Society up to 64th Street. Dawood Haroon. I went uptown and walked into the auditorium, and I noticed that the stage was empty and a few people were sitting toward the rear of the auditorium. I walked forward down the center aisle because I usually like to sit up front. Then I noticed an old gentleman, uh, old gentle, 1 minute, old gentleman sitting.
Uh-oh, you broke up. Your internet is unstable right now. Keshav, start back with David Haroon. I went up to the...
Dawood. I went up to the auditorium, and I noticed that the stage was empty and a few people were sitting toward the rear of the auditorium. I walked forward down the center aisle because I usually like to sit up front. Then I saw an old gentleman sitting over to the right, and he sort of drew me over to him. So I went over and sat beside him, and then I noticed that he was saying his beads. Even though he had his beads in a bag, I could hear them, and I could see his body moving, and I felt very comfortable. This was something I was used to.
As I was sitting there, looking around the auditorium, he just turned around and smiled at me very nicely. He nodded his head, and I nodded my head, and he smiled and turned around. Then he turned back to me again and softly asked me if I was from India. I said, "No, sir, I'm not from India. I'm from here, the United States." He turned back and he kept chanting with his beads. Then he turned around the next time and asked if I was a Hindu. I said, "No, sir, I'm not a Hindu. I'm a Muslim." And he said, "Oh, very good, very good. Yes, many times I hear the children in India reciting the Quran." And then he turned back around and his body was moving, rocking, and he was working with his beads. Then there were a few more exchanges of pleasantries, sort of intermittent. And then a lady came up on the stage and announced that the lecture was to begin. If the folks could give the speaker a round of applause, they would welcome him to the stage. At that point, the man I was sitting next to put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Excuse me, sir, would you do me a favor?" And I said, "Yes, anything." He said, "Would you watch over my books?" I looked down at the floor and he had several boxes of books and an umbrella and several other articles. I said, "Yes, I would watch over these." And he said, "Excuse me." He walked up the aisle and surprisingly, he walked up on the stage. And it was the man I'd come to hear, Swami Bhaktivedanta. He walked up on the stage and introduced himself to the people and tried to get them to come forward. He said, "Come forward, come forward." A few of them came up to the front. They were mixed couples, many Indians, male and female, mostly middle-aged and some college-age. A lot of professor types and ladies were there. Then he began his speech. He dove right into it. He just started exclaiming, proclaiming the greatness of the Creator, and that the most important thing is to remember the Creator and remember God. He began to expand on God consciousness, what God consciousness is, and how God is everywhere, and how it behooves us all to remember God, no matter what we call him, what names we call him by, but that we should call him. We should call him. He gave us a demonstration which was very moving. He chanted Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and spoke about the power of saving grace, about the power and saving grace in the mantra. He took a little break about halfway through and had some water.
The last thing he said, as he was coming down from the podium, was that he had 3 copies of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He explained that he'd been working on them and that they came in 3 volumes and were $16. Then he concluded and came down. A lot of people went over to him. Some were timid, some were enthusiastic. Some people shook his hand and were asking for books. At first, there were about 15 people. About 15 people gathered around him, talking to him and asking questions. With so many people around, he came over to me and said, "Sir, would you do one more favor for me? Would you do me one more favor? Will you kindly take over selling of the books? People will be coming to you for the books. So you sell the books and put the money in this little box, and I will be with you in a minute." I said, "Fine." So while he talked to the people, others came up to me. They thought they must have thought I was somehow secretary or some travel companion, and people were coming over to me and asking me personal questions about him, which I really couldn't answer because I didn't know. Some people were buying books or looking through them. So this went on, and I was trying to listen to him carry out conversation with people and carry on the book selling at some time. Some of the people were really looking for a book.
Some of the people were looking for a guru and trying to find out what he was supposed to be. Some of them were really interrogating him, but he just smiled and answered all their questions simply. I remember he told them, "You will know. There's no pressure. You will know if I am your guru." He suggested that people go over and read the books. And then the group dwindled down to about half a dozen, and then few remaining were just looking at him, and some were too timid to approach him. He walked over to them and spoke to them, putting them at ease. Later he came over and we counted the collection, and I helped him pack up his box and carry downstairs. The boxes of books that were left. As we parted, he thanked me very much, and I gave him my name and address and phone number and purchased a set of Srimad Bhagavatams. I have come here in this old age neither for sightseeing nor for any personal interest. It is for the interest of the entire humanity that I'm trying to implement the science of Krishna, which will actually make them happy. So it is the duty of every devotee of Lord Krishna to help me by all means.
November passed and December came, and Prahlad, having obtained an extension on his visa, stayed on. America seemed so opulent, yet many things were difficult to tolerate. The sirens and the bells from the fire engines and police cars seemed like they would crack his heart. Sometimes at night he would hear a person being attacked and crying for help. From his first days in the city, he noted that the smell of dog stew was everywhere. And although it was such a rich city, he could rarely find a mango to purchase, and if he did, it was very expensive and usually had no taste. From his room, he would sometimes hear the horns of ocean liners, and he would dream that someday he would sail around the world with Sankirtan party, preaching in all the major cities of the world. The weather went below freezing, colder than he had ever experienced in India. Daily he had to walk towards the Hudson against the west wind that even on an ordinary winter's day would take your breath away and make your eyes water and your face grow numb. On a stormy day, the driving wind and sudden gusts would even knock down a man. Sometimes a cold rain would turn the streets thick and with ice. The cold would become especially severe as one approached the shelterless, windswept area of West Side Drive, where a
Occasional.
occasional whirlwinds carried brown leaves and paper trash mysteriously high into the air.
For those long paragraphs, just do one.
Srila Prabhupada wore a coat Dr. Mishra had given him, but he never gave up wearing his dhoti, despite the cold, windy walks. Swami Nikhilananda, or the Ramakrishna Mission, advised Prabhupada that if he wanted to stay in the West, he should abandon his traditional Indian dress and strict vegetarianism. Meat eating and liquor, as well as pants and coat, were almost a necessity in this climate, he had said. Before Prabhupada had left India, one of his godbrothers had demonstrated to him how he should eat in the West with a knife and fork. Prabhupada never considered taking on Western ways. His advisors cautioned him not to remain an alien, but to get into the spirit of American life, even if it meant breaking vows he had held in India. Almost all Indian immigrants compromised their old ways. But Prabhupada's idea was different, and he could not be budged. The others may have had to compromise, he thought, but they'd come to beg technological knowledge from the West. I have not come to beg something, he said, but to give something. In his solitary wanderings, Srila Prabhupada made acquaintances with a number of local people. There was Mr. Rubin, a Turkish Jew who worked as a New York City subway conductor. Mr. Rubin met Prabhupada on a park bench, and being a sociable fellow and a world traveler, sat and talked with the Indian holy man.
Mr. Rubin, he seemed to know that he would have temples filled with devotees. He would look out and say, I am not a poor man, I am rich. There are temples and books. They are existing. They are there. But the time is separating us from them. He always mentioned we and spoke about the one who sent him, his spiritual master. He didn't know people at the time, but he said, I am never alone. He always looked like a lonely man to me. That's what made me think of him like a holy man, Elijah, who always went out alone. I don't believe he had any followers. When the weather was not rainy or icy, Prabhupada would catch the bus to Grand Central Station and visit the Central Library on 42nd Street. His Srimad Bhagavatams were there, some of the same volumes he had sold to the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi, and he took pleasure in seeing them listed in the card catalog and learning that they were being regularly checked out and read. And he would sometimes walk through UN Plaza or walk up to New India House on 64th Street, where he had met Mr. Malhotra, a consulate officer. It was through Mr. Malhotra that he had contacted the Tagore Society and had secured an invitation to lecture before one of their meetings back in November.
Riding the bus down Fifth Avenue, he would look out at the buildings and imagine that someday they could be used in Krishna consciousness. He would take a special interest in certain buildings. One on 23rd Street and one with a dome on 14th Street attracted his attention. He would think of how the materialists had constructed such elaborate buildings and had yet not made no provisions for spiritual life. Despite all the great achievements of technology, the people felt empty and useless. They helped build these great buildings, but the children were going to LSD. December 2nd, New York Times headlines. New York City hospitals report marked rise in LSD cases admitted for care. Protect against U.S. participation in Vietnam War mounts. The weather grew cold, but there was no snow in December. On Columbus Avenue, shops were selling Christmas trees, and the continental restaurants were bright with holiday lighting. On 72nd, the Retailers Association erected tall red poles topped with green tinsel Christmas trees. The tops of the trees on both sides of the streets sprouted tinsel garlands that spanned the street and joined the red tinsel stars surrounded by colored lights.
Although Srila Prabhupada did no Christmas shopping, he visited many bookstores, Orientalia, Sam Weiser's, Doubleday, the Paragon, and others, trying to sell his Srimad Bhagavatams. Mrs. Ferber, the wife of the Paragon Book Gallery proprietor, considered Prabhupada a pleasant and extremely polite small gentleman. The first time he called, she wasn't interested in his books, but he tried again, and she took several volumes. Prabhupada used to stop by about once a week, and since his books were selling regularly, he would collect. Sometimes, when he needed copies to sell personally, he would come by and pick them up from Mrs. Ferber, and sometimes he would phone to ask her how his books were selling. Mrs. Ferber, every time he came, he would ask for a glass of water. If a customer would make such a request, I would ordinarily say, "There is the water cooler." But because he was an old man, I couldn't tell him that, of course. He was very polite always, very modest, and a great scholar. So whenever he would ask, I would fetch him a cup of water personally. Once Prabhupada was talking with Mrs. Ferber about Indian cuisine, and she mentioned that she especially liked samosas. The next time he paid her a visit, he brought a tray of samosas, which she enjoyed. We're going to end there because Brajaras Bhavana Prabhu asked me to finish the presentation I started 2 weeks ago. And since I said that the meaning of determination is you have to finish things, I better comply. Otherwise, I don't know what we all might think. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Continuing from the last time we spoke, I'll just solicit any devotees who can remember anything at all from the last presentation. Perhaps if your mind is like a steel trap and you can recall or you took notes. Vivan, what do you got there from Dallas?
Hare Krishna. So last time Last time on the presentation, I took some notes. So last time we went over the first 5 principles. So all of these principles, you explained that all of these principles, by following them, we can ensure that our goals get met and we're able to have determination through our sadhana. And so here are the points that you mentioned. So the first point was you had to decide what you wanted and write it down. And that was important because it commits you to completing a goal and it's actually in writing somewhere. Then,
Yvonne, don't say them all because there's a bunch of more hands up, so we'll split them up. And if they miss any of the parts that you have, then you can come back. Is that okay?
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Arav.
Hare Krishna. I remember there was one point where it said, assume it can be done. And that was one of the principles of determination, I remember.
Thank you. Keshav.
I'm just adding on to what Arav said. Assume it can be done. So in the point, the 3 mini points, it was saying, or I don't know, but you were talking about how if you just assume it can be done, it's like an attitude change. So then your mind will like try to actually get the task done or actually try to do it.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Keshav. Maitali.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Something that I took away from last time, Maharaj, was you were talking about how it's important that we have a purpose to everything that we do and not be random, because if we don't have a purpose, then we get distracted.
Yeah, the difference between purpose and randomness. Thanks, Maitali. And Chaitanya Nitai Nam.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I remember the point you made about uh, having a not to-do list as well as a to-do list because of how intentional we have to be in every activity that we do and also what we have to avoid so we can actually get the good things done.
Yeah, definitely one of the parts. Speaking of parts, how about part?
So, like I had 2 things to share. One was adopt the attitude that fuels your progress. And another thing is that always have a plan in place so that you know what your life is going to be, so that it's structured and you have many goals that you can hit to.
Yeah, nice. I mean, people adopt pets all the time, so why not adopt an attitude? Maybe we should start an attitude store somewhere. You can come by and adopt a new attitude. What would you like? We could have a menu. We could offer people whatever attitude they want. Wow, thanks a lot. Okay, let's see if Vivan for he's the cleanup hitter. He's on four. We'll put him fourth in the batting order so he can get up in case the bases are loaded. Let's see, Vivan, did anybody miss anything that you had in your notes?
I also wrote down that the fourth point was you need to choose deliberate practice over luck, and by doing that you get numerical strength like reps, and that also you connected it to the aspect that whenever you have practice with something, it becomes like muscle memory. And then I was also thinking about this when um, Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas always tell us to count our sadhana, count our rounds. And by doing that, it allows us to have numerical strength and practice rather than just like wishing for the best or winging it.
Okay, here's Vivan. Grand slam. With bases loaded, he hits it over the center field wall. Okay, thank you very much, Vivan, and everybody else who offered these insights. Because I gave the presentation 2 weeks ago, it was edifying, to say the least, that you remembered so much. Practically everything. Thank you very much. So now let's go ahead and do the last few. First, I offer my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Beg His grace that any of these points I present here can be useful to all of you. Om Tat Sat. Avoid distractions. It's good to know what's holding you back. And oftentimes, I ignore what's holding me back because I don't want to give it up. And it seems onerous. And by the way, if there's any words I use that sound unfamiliar to you, then somebody make a note. I know who's really good at that, Madhuri Saki. Make a note if you think it's an obscure word. And I'm doing it on purpose because we should expand our vocabulary while we're talking. So onerous. It seems onerous to overcome the kinds of distracting habits that we have. If anybody ever found that? You have a habit and you don't want to really acknowledge it because then you might have to give it up. Nobody has anything like that? Okay. Yeah, I notice in what we describe as the things to avoid in chanting, a lifestyle of chanting, is don't maintain material attachments. And then we might hear so many instructions on the matter, as we say, but then we still maintain them. So it's very helpful to become acquainted with the things that might be holding you back. Personally, I feel disturbed by things that hold me back, and I like to get to know the enemy. And it's better for me to identify what it is that's doing it as a first step. Even if I think, oh, maybe I'm not able to overcome it, still at least acknowledge it. So know what's holding you back. And then, as you mentioned just now, make a not to-do list. Now, this is something that can shift the way your life is going. It's such a deliberate act to write things. In fact, there's a lot of evidence about writing on paper. As I might have showed you last time, I have this book I carry with me too. It's quite thick notebook. It was empty when I started. Now it's half full. And I keep various points in here. One of them is my not to do list. Also, I have my goals in the back. Remember, decide what you want, write it down. I have for the year what my goals are in the back. And I notice that when I use a pen to write them down, I really have to think about it. It's very deliberate activity. And so in thinking about what's holding me back, then writing the not to do list, it's very prominent in my consciousness. And so third thing I have on this list is ask, what's the best investment of my attention right now? That's a question that I ask myself, because a question pulls me away from whatever else I'm doing and into the mode of answering the question. That's how powerful the question mark is. If you ever see a boat being towed, they hook on. Or if you see trailers, there's a trailer hitch on the back of cars and they have to hitch it on there and carry it along. So when I ask something, it's bringing out that hitch, that hook, and it catches on. And I bring my consciousness back to the present moment by saying to myself, I ask this question, what's the best investment of my attention right now? And when I say investment, what am I investing? My attention. It's our true asset. So we get to decide where we place our attention in a given moment, and there's a return we get from where we place our attention. Because where attention goes, energy flows. And right now brings me back to the present. So what am I doing right now? Oftentimes I think about the future and I feel overwhelmed because I think, well, there's too much to do, so I won't do anything. I'll just get random. So if I ask, what can I do right now as an investment? Maybe it's just one little thing, like put a few things away or put one thing away and get started in that way. So avoid distractions. You think about the word Krishna, it really means the attractor. And it can think in another way, distractions, whatever takes us away from our self-interest, which is Krishna. There's attractions and distractions. Okay, let's do another one, and we'll come back for reflections or comments. And narrow your choices. So the mind can come up with unlimited choices, as we know from the Gita. Krishna mentions Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuranandana. Bahu shaka hirantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. He says, unless you limit your choices and be one-pointed in your purpose, then Bahu Shaka, your choices will be many-branched. There's a book I haven't read, but I heard about it. It's called The Paradox of Choice. There's so many choices nowadays for everything. Like if you just want to buy a simple item from a pharmacy, you go in there and there's 50 kinds of toothpaste. And even if you want to buy it online, you still have to go look and see all the different kinds. Isn't it? On Amazon, if you search one thing, they'll give you 500 choices. And then there's a lot of other suggestions about maybe this goes with it. It's not so simple. So narrowing down choices can be very helpful. Just in that way, some people who are driven, they narrow their choices in how they dress. Can you think of anybody who narrows their choices in how they dress? So they don't have to get into a conundrum about what they should wear on one day or another? Who can you think of who does it? Brahmacharis, definitely. You swear one thing, shave off all your hair, and then it's like you don't have to worry about your hairstyle. Steve Jobs did it. He always wore a black turtleneck and jeans. That was it. Tennis shoes that looked like wearing some New Balance or something like that. Sannyasis, Goswamis. And so, narrowing choices. So a couple of the ways I've listed here for narrowing choices are plan your day. There's an author, speaker named Ogmandino. I don't know if he's still around, but he wrote about such things, and one of his sayings was, never greet the dawn without a map. I always like that. Have a map when you wake up in the morning. Make sure you plan your day. Because if you don't frame how you want your day to be, somebody else will frame it for you. If you don't have your clear priorities for the day, someone else will make their problem your priority. Like if they want you to do something else, if you don't have a valid reason why you have to do your thing because it's already on your list, then they're going to make you do their thing. And that way your life can get away from you. So plan your day. It's your day. It's your life. You get to choose where you're going to place your attention. So plan your day ahead of time. Write it down. And once you have it on paper, you can just say, sorry, look at my list. I already have this. And then set time-bound goals, because when they're open-ended, then everyone thinks, Prabhupada said, I will live for millions of years. But we don't. And our time is short. So it's better if we demarcate an end point to whatever we want to do. Even if it's 5 minutes hence, or 5 days, or 5 years, once you put the ending point, it gives you what's called forced efficiency. You know you have a certain amount of time. I notice for myself, whenever I'm going on a trip, that's when I get the most efficient. The week before, 2 weeks before, the day before, I'm focused on what I have to get done before I leave. So putting time-bound goals makes it imperative that I finish what I want to do. Of course, you have to be careful to plan in some time for yourself too, so you're not always pushing, because we may need some balance in our life, right? So narrow your choices. Let's see the next one. Write your personal constitution. So when I was in Washington, D.C., I went to the Library of Congress. Some friends took me there to see the museum or the library. On the wall is the original Constitution of the United States. And then before that, they had the in concert with that, nearby they have the Magna Carta And of course, the Magna Carta, the ideas there led to the Constitution of the United States. The point is, it's just a piece of paper, but a group of people got together and decided what their life was about, what their core values were, what their priorities were, and they put it into a constitution. So what I recommend is you take time for yourselves and write your own constitution. Put it on your wall and say, this is what I live by. These are my priorities. I did it, and it really changed my life. Taking time to write your priorities makes you think about what's most obvious. I mean, this is an obvious statement of what's most important. That's what it means. But you may not be thinking of it very clearly until you write it down. Because things come up, right? And your priorities seem to shift. And you may think, well, why am I doing this? There's things that are more important. But when you cement it by writing your own constitution and say, this is what I stand for, it can really hold together your life. Because, well, not because, as an example, look at how countries are held together generally. There are exceptions. Everything falls apart in this world at some point. But countries like America, even now, the interpretation of the Constitution is there. But still, there's a whole system of government which oversees millions and millions of people, but it's a piece of paper. And why does it hold together? They took the time to think about it and write it down. So when you write you list your values. Let's list a few values in the chat that you think you would put in your constitution. Like, what value would you want to uphold, let's say, in your life on a daily basis, if you had your ideal life? Okay, daily japa, it's like an activity. Integrity means wholeness. Being compassionate to all. Yes, those are values. How about truthfulness? Yep, there's Arav. Right when I was thinking it, he was writing it. Eat only prasadam. Empathy, equanimity. Not criticizing anybody. What if you wrote that down? Let's take an example. Let's just say in your constitution, as you're composing it, you put, I don't criticize other people. Do you think that you would start to notice the urge to criticize somebody at some point? I was talking to a devotee recently, and he told me how during Kartik one year, he made a vow that he wouldn't criticize anyone. And he said halfway into the first day, he started noticing the urge that he wanted to criticize somebody. And he said it was one of the greatest austerities, but he never noticed it until he wrote it in his values list. So it's kind of exciting. These values are metaphysical. They have nothing to do with the material world. They have to do with our sentience and our free will. And if you decide, I'm going to cultivate, like Part Doshi said, he said, tranquility, I'm going to cultivate that, or balance, Brajaras Bhavana, then you would start thinking about it. It's part of your constitution. So there's that, and then there's your priorities list. And when I wrote my priorities, it took me weeks thinking about them, which one should be higher, which one should be lower. For instance, if you were going to say in Krishna consciousness, what would be the highest priority you could think of in your spiritual practice or in your life in general, what would you say? Somebody said japa. What is it in the Srimad Bhagavatam of thinking of Krishna? You could defend that one. Manmana bhavamad bhakto, yena tena prakarena mana Krishna devesha. First thing, all the rules and regulations are servants of this one thing. Remember Krishna and never forget him. And then, of course, you could think of other things like that. What did Shukadev tell Parikshit when he asked, what should be my highest priority? Now I have 7 days to live. He said, be prepared to think of Krishna when you leave your body. Ante Narayana Smriti. Oh boy, is that powerful. You put that at the top of your list and say, I want to be ready for death. Some people may say, well, that's crazy. How are you going to enjoy your life? But I would argue as soon as you put it on the list and you confront it, that's when you really start to appreciate life. You appreciate everybody in your life. And you appreciate more every second you have because you realize there is an ending point. And then you realize that you don't want to waste time because you want to be ready for the final exam, right? Or if you want Krishna Prema as your topmost. These values, these priorities rather, they're self-directing. When you decide, you write them down. I see a lot of nice stuff there, everybody. I can see you're very oriented towards the process of pure devotional service. Well done. So what do you think about writing your personal constitution? Do you think it, on a scale of 1 to 10, that 10 being the hardest thing you ever did and 1 being a breeze, you could do it in a little break you have over the next couple days? Well, how do you see it? How do you perceive it? If you want, you can speak up. Any reactions? We'll take 3 reactions because I still have a few more to go. 8.5. So just articulate, Madhuri Saki, why. What are you thinking about the process and why it would be easy, difficult, medium? What do you think?
What was the question again?
How do you feel about this? Hard, easy? What's your thought process on it? Arif, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I think it would be very hard for me because oftentimes what I get when writing down my ideas, even in like a school essay, in those, after I've written it and submitted it, then I start thinking about more. So I'm feeling that if I started to write some down, and when I put the paper down, I would go away somewhere. I'd be on a car ride or something, and then I'd be thinking about things. I'm like, why didn't I write that down? And then as soon as I get home, I just forget about it. So then I think by the time I'm able to write down everything, it'll be very difficult. It takes a lot of thought, I think, in my opinion.
May I make a suggestion, Arif?
Yes.
This is a small notebook. And are you at Kumbh Mela by any chance?
No, I'm at a house where there's a program going on downstairs.
Okay. Maybe just mute for a second.
Yes.
This is a notebook. You can see the size of it compared to my hand, even though I have a big hand. It's, but it also is corrugated and you can pull out the pages. And this notebook, I can send you the brand. I've been using it. I like it. You can write your ideas in it. And this pen I recommend too. It's Pentel RSVP BK90 fine point black ink. These two things, they can fit together. You can put that in here and you can carry it with you. And I recommend that you write down your ideas wherever you go because you don't want to lose them. You have to have a place for your ideas to land. And don't let them float out the window when you're driving your car because you'll never find them. They go in the forest and up in a tree and then they're gone. So nail them down, catch them. Prabhupada had one of these and he wrote his ideas down all the time. And people who are high performance, they're always writing their thoughts down when they hear them and when they think of them because they know how valuable they are. One idea can change your life. Highly recommended. Just get in the habit. Okay, Vivan, and then we'll say Vivan, and then we're moving on.
Hey Krishna. So whenever, like, let's say we have to write a personal constitution, I would say at first, and this is going to be for everyone, like writing something that's going to define the rest of your life is not like something that you should take lightly, right? It's going to require depth of thought. It's going to require you to reflect on certain things that have already happened in your life and things that you think might happen later in your life. And you would have to, at first, you would have to like spend some time, maybe like an hour or so, write everything that you remember down, brainstorm, and then write your final version, right? But that might be hard at first, but once you have it written down, the rest of your life, you're just going to be following that plan. And I would say in many aspects of that, that would help you stay on track and focused on your priorities. And also, this is not something that is like set in stone. It's also amendable, right? So just like the Constitution of the United States, they have these things called amendments. And as the course of your life changes and stuff like that, you would be able to change it or maybe add some stuff to it that could help you stay more focused and stay true to your priorities in life.
Vaughn, you're so articulate. You lay out ideas so neatly and cleanly. It's very easy to understand and appreciate. Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, these things they can be added to. This is your life. You can change it anytime you want, amend it. Let's look at two more. Next one is strengthen the bonds that free you. Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? You're making bonds that free you. And this is one of the taglines for the Grihastha Vision Team. I picked it up. I really like it. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaishcharan atmavasharvateya atma prasadam adhigachati. And it basically saying the same thing. He gives this a similar statement about the regulative principles of freedom. Interesting. There are ways in which the more we control our senses, the more we cultivate sattva, the freer we are. And it may seem to others like, why don't you want to go to this thing? It's like, because I have my other things to do that are on my list. And you do those things, somebody else does something else that's more random, but you end up freer and with more choices than the other person who thinks they're free just by doing whatever they want. So controlling the senses is one of those bonds. You know, we make vows where we say, you know, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. Who does that? Not very many people. It's pretty rare that somebody has the courage to do something like that. But it's well reasoned. It's really smart. Save yourself a lot of grief and bondage in the material world. So strengthen those bonds that free you. And act morally. When you tell the truth, it seems inefficient at the time because you think like, well, I'm going to tell the truth. It may not turn out well for me right now. But in the long run, these high-minded ideas like truthfulness, compassion, and so forth, they always pay off in the long game. And the last slide is review your process. Review is so important. One thing about writing everything down and remembering what you did during the week is when you can come back and review it. It's nice to do it at the end of the day and just remember what you did during the day and think of what worked well, where was there room for improvement. Take some time. In his book, Getting Things Done, which became a runaway bestseller because it's very commonsensical and easy to follow, but it works, the author, David Allen, talks about how it's important to review. We may collect ideas, we may have things to do, goals and so forth. If you review them regularly, it's much more effective. Keeps your consciousness close to them. So ask this question whenever you do a project. Make a list of what's working well, and then also where was there room for improvement. And it's a gold mine because then you can make improvements. You have something to put on your goal list. This is a time of year when it's a good idea to start making goals for 2026. To really start thinking about it. And don't hold back and think, well, I can't do anything. I'm doing enough right now. Just think of the ideals that you want to achieve and start noting them. Because in the very process of thinking about it, your attention is going to go there and your energy will flow there as well. And when you review your goals, you can always adjust them. The other day I was thinking I was on a deadline. I wasn't thinking I was remembering I was on a deadline and had to do something. I just finished something else and I thought, oh no, I got to do this other thing. And I I was feeling slightly overwhelmed, and then I thought, well, you're the one who imposed this goal on yourself. Vaishesheka Das. You decided to do it, so you wrote it down. Now you have to do it. And I thought, well, if I need to adjust it at some point to keep my health and sanity and stuff like that, I can always do that. So we also have to remember that we can adjust if necessary. And also, it's important to celebrate your progress. I finished a book. It was the first book I wrote. It was an austerity. Writing a book is like building a house from scratch. And when I finished, and it was all done, I couldn't do anything more. I went to Prabhupada in Mayapur. I brought the book. I showed it to him. And it was a celebratory time. Just some relief. It's done. I did it for him. And then, it was very joyful celebration. So celebrate your progress. And maybe I should have made that the last one. But filling your gaps, you could move up on this list at some time. Which is when you find out where you need adjustment, fill in the gaps in your thought process. That's part of the adjustment. So now we have 0 time left, minus 2 minutes we have. We need a time machine or something to go back. I don't know how to do that yet. In any case, it's been really a nice session today. I especially liked having time to chant the Gita. We started off with a prayer that was really uplifting, and the readings were really good, weren't they? Everyone was so focused, and this is substantial when you get a chance to chant your Chad during the day. It's kind of like whatever else happened, at least I did Chad. And then we read Prabhupada Lilamrita, which I find to be the most charming thing you could read. It's so inspiring to hear Prabhupada's life and what he went through. It's at the same time, it's hearing about Prabhupada and the way he did things. It's informative of how we can interact with the world. And now for the close, with 30 seconds or less, we have Arav. Did you have a point you want to make from Kumbh Mela Central?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I just had one question. That book and the pen you were showing, what is the name or the brand of that one?
I'll have to look it up on my Amazon because it doesn't have any markings on it, but I will find that just as Tarani Radha makes her final comment.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class today. It was really great. I just have this one point that I really liked. How you said the Constitution, it's just a piece of paper, but it's like so like important in this entire nation. So I was thinking like how some people will be like, oh, it's just like I have it in my mind, like I have these goals in my mind. I don't need to write it down. But then you look at it like how some of the most important things in this world are like based off of a paper, like the US, the entire state of America, country of America and all its states are based off of the Constitution, which is just technically a piece of paper. So how we could, if we like base our life on that piece of paper and like write everything, all our goals down, we could like live so much better because we know exactly what we want. And like we could easily, we have like thousands of thoughts a day, so we could easily forget it in our mind. But if it's on a paper, the paper will have it forever until we like throw it away or something. So we can see it and we can remind ourselves that this is what I stand for and I won't forget this.
Thanks, Tarani Radha. Let's do it. I mean, that was very encouraging, and I agree with you on all those points. And so don't get overwhelmed. Don't think it's like a huge project. Just start with what you can. Simple thing. Did you get it, Arav?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, yes, I got it.
Okay. It's nice because it's spiral. You can pull the pages out when you want to give somebody a note or take one out for yourself, and it'll fit in your back pocket. Of course, yeah, if you have a Dodi side pocket or Kurta or something like that. It's a little bit bigger than the notebooks I used to use, but I like it because you can pull pages out and it also lie flat and stuff like that. It's the one I'm into right now, so I recommend it. And this one's Pentel RSVP. This is magic. You can change your life with this. It's like a magic wand. Whatever we have inside us, with our minds, you write it down on paper. And I'm guaranteeing you that it's what you're doing is you're starting to manifest it right away. So don't forget the simple thing that we're manifesting all the time. Krishna is fulfilling our desire, give us intelligence. Just focus on what you want, get it written down, and organize your life around this principle. You're already way ahead of everybody else, but this is going to put you in another stratosphere from doing these exercises. Thanks everybody for joining Youth Jam. It's been really fun. Great to see everybody. And thanks for keeping the lights on. Chaitanya Nitai Nam, Brajaras Bhavana, Anapayani. Thanks for being here always and keeping the vibration going, Part. And Madhuri Saki. Thank you everybody. Arushi, Mayuri, Avyan, Amba, Keshav, a regular attendee. Vrinda's here, Nitai, fantastic, Part, and Akshaj, Maitali, Nishta. It's like Vishnu Sahasranam. Ryan, good to see you. You grew into a man. You used to be a little kid. Sia's here, always lighting things up with her smile. Let's see, anybody I missed? Mayuri, Arushi, and Maya. And Navya, down there in the right-hand corner. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll be counting the minutes till we see you next time. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva. If you so desire, please bless everybody who joined Youth Jam today, everyone who almost joined Youth Jam, people who accidentally slept through it, and may everyone here always remember Krishna and be empowered to write their own constitution. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Gaur Premanande Haribo.
Thank you all for joining this week. We'll see you next week at 3 p.m. PST. Hare Krishna.